Welcome back, fellow adventurers, to the Frog God Games YouTube channel. I'm your host, guide, and dungeon master here for any of your video Frog God content needs. That was a tongueful. And welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope we're all staying safe during the coronavirus quarantine. If you're watching this in the future, hopefully we are out of quarantine. But for now, it looks like we are under a shelter-in-place, stay-at-home kind of thing. So I know it's really tough on a lot of people. So make sure to come back to the channel, subscribe, because this can be a little escape, you know, for 20 minutes a week or an hour a week, you know, however long the videos are. Just know I'll be here every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time uploading a video. So you guys will at least have that to try to escape the craziness that is going on in the world right now. And today I kind of want to throw it back to an old series that I started and then just kind of like stopped. But you know, I am going to be continuing it. It is the Tome of Horrors Monster Encounter series, basically where I take a creature out of the Tome of Horrors from Frog God Games for 5th edition, and I talk about it. We do a little encounter around it. I talk about the monster, where it should be placed, all that kind of stuff. And today I actually, I didn't really even know this creature was in the book until today, and now it's like one of my favorite creatures ever. It's really fun. And the first thing that I thought of when I thought of this creature was if anyone has seen Moana. Moana is a Disney movie. You know, I'm assuming not a lot of people, you know, have seen it, but there's this big crab, and he's encrusted with treasure on his back, and he's got Maui's hook, and they have to go, you know, adventure into this cave, this undersea cave, get the hook so Maui, the god, or, you know, demigod, can get his powers back. Well, the monster that we are talking about today is the dragon crab. Now, the dragon crab is, like I said, one of my favorite monsters ever. They're basically gargantuan magical crabs that live in undersea caves or just under the sea in general. And they can cast spells. They are insanely large, so they can crush and do multiple attacks. It's really just a fun monster for any seafaring campaign, or if you're just looking to explore by the ocean in general. I highly recommend this monster. But let's first talk about the lore before we talk about the mechanics of it, so we get a little bit of an idea of where this monster can be placed. If the histories are accurate, a determined wizard decided to make himself an underwater army of gargantuan crabs to guard his island lair. He succeeded in all but one respect. In granting the crabs the intelligence to understand and execute his orders, he accidentally made them both evil in outlook and far too intelligent to control. Communing with the sea in which they dwelt, the crabs taught one another to call forth the magics of nature itself and overthrew their creator, destroying his lair and scattering themselves throughout the sea. His later discovered journals, history claims, reveal he originally created 36 of these crabs. Though they are unable to reproduce, rumor holds that they are all nearly have survived to this day, hidden in the deepest underwater caverns, ruling the seas around them. Dragon crabs tend to be greedy, both in carnivorous appetite for treasure. Like some dragons, they often amass vast piles of gems, coins, and other wealths that can survive at the bottom of the sea. Some also collect shipwrecks to decorate their lairs. Dragon crabs enjoy the pain of living creatures, especially intelligent ones, and often make a hobby of devising clever means to lure humanoids to their lairs to make them suffer for entertainment. Most dragon crabs harbor a strong dislike of wizards. Though not universal, many dragon crabs line their shells with gaudy precious metals and stones, both for aesthetic reasons and to disguise themselves as piles of sunken treasure. Such crabs that then bury themselves in loose sand and wait for unsuspecting adventurers to swim close and be ambushed. When not gem-encrusted, dragon crab shells are deep orange with gray, with patches of pale blue on the legs. They're about 60 feet in diameter, with pincers each as large as an elephant. Right off the rip, insanely cool, and now if you've seen Moana, you get a little bit of the picture in your head of the dragon. I basically, at this point, I'm just going to call him a dragon crab. So from that description, we get that the dragon crab isn't specifically like a dragon in crab form. It's more of just sort of nodding at the idea that dragon crabs are very intelligent. They lure people into their lairs, which is usually filled with treasure, and they like shiny things. Often these giant crabs will lure in some unsuspecting adventurers. Perhaps, they send out one of their minions to go kidnap a town, a villager or something. And their caves are generally under the ocean. Or I can even see, a seaside cave that you kind of go and work down into, get through his minions, eventually getting to the dragon crab and his hoard of treasure. So just off the rip here, speaking mechanically now, the dragon crab is challenge rating 16. Now, for those who are very experienced with 5th edition, you know that that is a high challenge rating. Not a lot of monsters are up at that level, and generally, if they are up at that level, they are bosses. Generally because they get layer actions and regional effects. And on top of that, legendary actions, which are basically free turns in the middle of characters' turns that they can do. This dragon crab has all of those. So if you're looking to run this monster, I recommend running him sort of like as a boss figure. Unless you are playing like a godlike campaign with Immortals characters, level 20 plus, then you can maybe have like a layer with a couple of them. However, it's going to get really difficult really quickly. If you're just going to run the encounter with the dragon crab alone, no one else, the characters can probably reasonably head out at level 12 if they have a lot of magic items, and if they're a powerful party with, 5, 6, 7 members. If you're just doing 4 standard adventurers with, low gear, not a lot of magic items, I would probably have them encounter a little closer to 15 or 16. But for those who play 5th edition often, you'll know that monsters just by themselves get beaten up really quickly in 5th edition, even with legendary actions. And high armor class and health, they just go down really quickly. So if you're gonna run this at a lower level, like if you're really chomping at the bit to run a dragon crab, you can throw it at them with the characters, a lower level, maybe just have it be weakened in old age or something like that. So up on the screen now, you should be able to see the stat blocks of the dragon crab. So as we said, it is a gargantuan monstrosity. It is neutral evil. The armor class is 18, and the hit points are currently 210, but that is the average. So if you want to just bump up the hit points or actually roll them out, I always recommend just raising hit points because it's just going to make it a lot easier for you as the dungeon master, the referee, to run the encounter. Swim speed is 50 feet, and the speed on land is 40 feet. Obviously, they move a little quicker in water because that's where they live. It has a very high constitution, so constitution saves should be pretty easy. Skills, you probably won't use a lot unless you're actually role-playing it out, but Deception is a pretty good one there. Looks like he's proficient in it. Perception, stealth, survival, just basically things to keep the dragon crab alive, because if we remember from our lore, the wizard who created them, that was a long time ago, so they've been able to survive at least this long, so they must be pretty powerful, in all respects. The resistance damage is bludgeoning from non-magical weapons, and it's immune to piercing or slashing from non-magical weapons. If you're throwing this at your players, I'm going to assume that they have the magical items to defend themselves. So this probably won't be a huge factor. And I would possibly even go to say, like, you can add in something maybe like resistance, give it like a ring of resistance to something, maybe like fire or something like that. It probably won't be casting fire spells underwater. So if you're going to run the encounter in the water, just also remember that monsters just get fundamentally stronger in water because of the rules for 5th edition, disadvantage to hit with a majority of the weapons. If you don't have a swim speed, your speed is halved. There's a lot of factors. Check out the underwater combat section in the Dungeon Master's Guide as well, just to make sure you are getting all of those factors involved there. The legendary resistance, dark vision. I forgot to add that in. And common in any other 4 languages. I would give it draconic, just for fun, because it's dragon crab, so you get 3 others. Like I said, challenge 16, so it's going to give you a hefty amount of experience. So we get 3 legendary resistance per day, so basically, if you fail the saving throw, you can choose to succeed instead. I always recommend DMs, make sure you roll the saving throw first, and then if you fail it, then use the success. Don't just use the success automatically. Make sure you roll it out because, you might succeed and not have to use it. It's just some simple things that DMs sometimes forget in the heat of battle. Magic resistance. The dragon crab has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. So there you go. On your saving throws, you're going to be not failing often, because of its bonuses. You know, if you fail, you can go ahead and succeed it. So this is the spellcasting part that I talked about. The Dragon Crab is a spellcaster indeed, you get to cast at a 12th level spellcaster, and Wisdom is your spell, which you're going to be using for your ability. DC 16 plus 8 to hit, pretty good. You get cantrips and up to 6 level spells, because like I said, we are a 12th level spellcaster. Now, the cool part about Dungeons & Dragons, obviously, is it's up to you. So if you have a Dragon Crab that you want to personalize for your game, you can totally take these spells and mix them in whatever way you see fit. However, there are a couple that I would recommend keeping. I would recommend keeping Cure Wounds, because you just never know when you have to heal yourself as a boss, especially if you're running him solo. You're going to want to give him the ability to heal himself, or herself, or themselves. You get Hold Person as well. I recommend keeping Hold Person just to keep the barbarians and the fighters at bay, so they're not, you know, dealing 50 damage per turn to you. I've been there before. It's not fun. And Conjure Elemental. I highly recommend keeping Conjure Elemental, so it's not just you in this fight. You're not the only one. You have a little buddy to help you. Just be hitting the spellcasters, making them do Constitution saving throws to concentrate on their spells, all that kind of stuff. I would recommend keeping Conjure Elemental for sure. Now for the physical attacks. The Dragon Crab makes 6 attacks, 2 with its pincer and 4 with its legs. It can use Crush instead of a pincer attack if you got someone grappled. So the pincers do a decent amount of damage, and so do the kick attacks, which is with the legs. But remember, if your pincer hits, if it's large or smaller creature, it is grappled. You can escape on a DC 15. Has 2 pincers, each of which can grapple a target. So once you get that target in your pincer, you can just go ahead and crush it. And remember, if they're grappled, you have advantage to hit them. Advantage with a +10 to hit is most likely going to hit quite often. So make sure you're using those and maxing out your capabilities with those. So since you see we have spellcasting and actions, I would recommend taking the actions of, you know, the multi-attack instead of casting spells on your turn, and here's why. We hop into legendary actions. Now, legendary actions can be used after another creature's turn. You cannot use it after your turn. So, you know, you go, then a barbarian goes, you can use it after the barbarian, and then the wizard goes, you can use it after the wizard. And each of them have different amounts of charges. So Detect and Gleam are only 1 charge. Detect, you can make a perception check. Gleam, you reflect light to a target, making them do a dex save, or they become blinded, which obviously has a lot of amazing effects, especially against spellcasters or ranged targets. The pincer, you can do 2 pincer attacks or use Crush. That's cost 2 actions, and you can cast a spell as 3 actions. So I would recommend keeping your spell casting for your legendary actions just to you know, maximize damage output on your turn. But if you need to cast a spell on your turn, obviously do so. So that way you're keeping the game nice and fair for yourself, because we know that 5th edition characters can be very strong. So the layer actions. This is only on initiative count of 20, so this often doesn't come up. I usually don't specifically use them, but you can use Riptide, Pooling Shadow, and Treacherous Hordes. So Riptide is basically going to make a pool of water within 120 feet of the Dragon Crab surge outward in a grasping tide. They have to make a DC 15 strength saving throw or be pulled 20 feet away and knocked prone. It has its uses for sure. Pooling Shadow, magical darkness spreads from the chosen point. And basically, yeah, you basically just get to cast darkness. Treacherous Hordes, a heap of dragons treasure hoard collapses on a target. They have to do a DC 15 dexterity saving throw or take 3d6 bludgeoning damage and be knocked prone and buried. When you're buried, you cannot breathe or stand up, and you have to make strength checks to get out of it. So they're definitely just little small utility things if you roll high on initiative. Lastly, we have our regional effects, which will come into play most likely before the encounter. Subservient Seas, the Dragon Crab can influence the behavior of aquatic creatures within 6 miles with the intelligence 3 or lower. So basically, more minions, yay. Eldritch Tides. This basically makes it so the Dragon Crab isn't specifically controlling the water around you, but it's just madness before you get to the lair as just another deterrent. I would recommend skipping Eldritch Tides if you're running the adventure like you're going to find the dragon crab, or you're chasing after the dragon crab, because it will just deter players from wanting to go in altogether. So now that we're done with the mechanical aspects of the dragon crab, I just want to talk about a little bit like we've talked about it already a little bit, the encounter or where you're going to be. Just notice that this is a little like askew. I recommend running it in underwater. You have to go through maybe like a shipwreck to get there. You hear from this town that there's sightings of a monstrosity living under the waters. It could be legend from long ago, or perhaps you could even find the journal of the wizard who created these. And it points you to a specific spot in the sea where you can go find it. Of course, before you get to him, you have to deal with, his minions or her minions, and, fight through maybe some Sahagin, some elementals, some other just normal giant crabs, not gargantuan crabs. And then when you get to it, I recommend having maybe like a new wizard there or something that they enslaved, or maybe have a little cleric minion or something. I always like giving bosses spellcaster NPCs with them, to either do damage or heal or provide, some sort of like buffs, because in 5th edition it can get really tricky really quick with how strong the players are. So that is the dragon crab. I personally think it's a really cool encounter. If you want to run some sort of like treasure hoard adventure where you're not only finding treasure, but you're also like going after a really big bad guy, and trying to get their stuff, I recommend dragon crab because it's a little different than dragon. And I just love aquatic adventures personally, so I highly recommend putting this in here. For those who have played White Plume Mountain, I wish that this crab was the crab in White Plume Mountain. That would have been so cool. Maybe I'm running Return to White Plume Mountain, my own version, not like the specific module from TSR Wizards of the Coast. And I'm definitely going to have a dragon crab return because the crab was one of the coolest parts for them, and them getting destroyed by the vampire. Sorry for spoilers if you haven't read through or ran through White Plume Mountain yet. So that is it for me today, guys. I really hope you did enjoy the video. If you like the Monster Encounter series, let me know what monsters you would like me to cover down below if you have a favorite from the Tome of Horrors 4 or 5e. If you like any other editions, just make sure to go to the Frog God Games website and check out Tome of Horrors Complete for Swords and Wizardry and Pathfinder. That has all these monsters just in a different rule system. So like I said, top link in the description if you want to pick up the Tome of Horrors. It's there for you, and it's a worthwhile pickup in my opinion. Plus, you're going to need it to follow along at home. So like this video if you enjoyed, comment down below your favorite monster from Tome of Horrors or a place that you would use the dragon crab. So subscribe for more content. Of course, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching my videos. It really does mean a lot to me. And keep going on, adventures worth winning.